Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, June 8th, 2023. We are at the Pioneer Valley Regional School Library. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's 7:05. And since we have someone who's online, we do need to do a roll call attendance. Melissa, you want to start?
Melissa Gary Bernardston present.
Jen Coffin, Bernardston, present.
Michelle Jeruso, Leiden, present.
Nathan Swartz, present.
Karen O'Neill, here.
Gretchen Kelton, present.
Alan Genovese here.
Raina Dastu here. Steve?
Stephen Martin here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any citizens' comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes of May 18th. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. On the first page, number 4, it's Tracy Novick, V-I-C-K.
And to follow up on 4, it's Kate Mesmer, not Kate Mesner.
Mesmer.
Mesmer.
M. Two S's or one M?
Nope, with an M.
One M.
Yep.
Page 3, item 8, first line. I would change that to Kinsella reported on her research into mass law relative to sibling preference.
And I wasn't here, but it says school choice seats for 2034. Where's that?
2020.
I mean, it could be.
Number 8. Yeah.
Number 8.
Finally doing some advanced planning.
I must have been tired by
Yeah. On page 2, it starts on page 2, but ends on 8. I think the way it's worded could lead to people who had students in by choice paying 10% of the Warwick tuition rate. Maybe those parts could be separated. I don't know.
I think I just took it from the policy, so I don't get to choose the wording. Unless I copied it wrong. Unless I...
Do you want me to look that up right now?
It is correct? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other corrections?
I would move then, if there were no other corrections, that we approve the minutes of Thursday, May 18th, as amended.
I'll second that.
All right. Go ahead and start the voting.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Jeruso, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
And Steve?
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. Moving on to the reports. Chair's report. I had the honor of presenting diplomas to our 48 graduates this past Friday. So it was a lovely event. We had a great time. And a big congratulations to all of the students who worked really hard and to get their diplomas. And I also want to extend a big thank you to Kathy Hawkins Harrison. She humbly took on a lot of extra work and responsibility willingly and without complaint and asking for nothing in return or very little in return. And she carried a huge weight on her shoulders this year. And I just want to extend our gratitude for her dedication to the district and for being there for our district this year. So I also wanted to share that Bernardston, the town of Bernardston, voted to approve the school budget last night at their town meeting, so that was good news for us. And the MASC Summer Institute is July 14th and 15th, so if anyone's interested, consider going. Melissa and I attended last summer. It was a very valuable time. So the district does have some continuing education money for the school committee, so reimbursement will be available. And the fall MASC MASS joint conference is November 8th through 10th. So also consider that. Did you go last year?
Yeah, I did.
And
Yeah,
in
it was
Melissa?
really valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone to
Yeah.
participate in whatever opportunities are available by MASC and
Mhm.
their groups.
Right. And I believe that we have decided on a location for our retreat. Is that correct, Michelle?
Oh,
The
well,
what?
we had
We discussed.
talked about, I'm sorry, we had talked about having our retreat in Leiden, at our Leiden Town Hall. So I hope everyone will be able to drive over to Leiden. It'll be beautiful
Yeah,
in July.
it's in July. Yes, I
Yeah.
imagine. Very beautiful.
What is the time on that? 22nd of July?
Yeah, 22nd of July. I believe like 9 to 1. We're still
Yeah, I have
firming up details, but that was the idea. All right, and on to the the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I echo Raina's comments about how wonderful graduation was. And in addition to thanking Mrs. Hawkins Harrison, I would like to thank the current 11th grade students, our rising seniors. The 11th grade students in this district take on the responsibility of preparing for graduation. And the decision was made wisely to move graduation indoors this year. And so the 11th graders set up perhaps 400 chairs in the gymnasium. And then after we're taking down 400 chairs. So a shout out to our rising seniors for providing community service to honor their peers. Our baseball team, heading into the round of 8. Get your tickets online. The game will take place in Hopedale on Saturday. Someone is going to remind me of the time. 2 o'clock. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Ms. Gary. So come and support our athletes as they continue their run through the state tournament. And then my big item for tonight's superintendent report is to invite Ms. Parlaclosh up to the table. Ms. Nancy Parlaclosh is the recommended candidate for the position of Director of Student Services. You have in front of you a copy of her resume, and you have in your packets my brief memo recommending the appointment of Ms. Parlaclosh. And under Massachusetts law, as a quick reminder, this role is akin to a Director of a Special Education Administrator, which is the term used in the law. The school committee is responsible both for selecting and appointing this person and setting their compensation. So I would respectfully request that the school committee consider appointing Ms. Parlaclosh. In a minute, we'll invite Nancy to say hello and talk about her experience and her interest in the district. On Tuesday evening, Curriculum and Personnel voted to recommend bringing Ms. Parlaclosh forward as the recommended candidate for this role. And with that, Nancy, welcome, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, well, first I want to compliment you on your pronunciation of my name. One of my references gave a example of how to pronounce it, and I think that was helpful. My maiden name was Baker, so I am challenged with my name too. So my interest in your district is really, I was inspired by the job posting because it talked about, it sounded like there's some revitalization going on and a focus on professional development at all levels, and that intrigued me.
Also, I'm currently in a district that's 5 separate districts, which is unique, and each little district has its own community and culture, and it's not centralized. So it's, I'd like to be somewhere where everyone is kind of got the same vision and mission and are moving in the same direction, to be on a team that's focused around common goals. I've been in education for all of my adult life. I started out, I was not, as a high school student and early college student, I was not a great student. And I was always attracted to kids that had, you know, that felt disenfranchised or had learning differences. So I pursued special education, and my first job was on an island off of Cape Cod called Pennakees Island, and it was an alternative to DYS lockup for kids, and it had no electricity and a 3-seater outhouse, and it was very remote, and we had lobster pots and dories, and we built boats, and we had pigs, and it was an amazing experience. I left there to go to Istanbul, Turkey to teach English, and I met my husband there. So we had intended to stay, but we came back to get married, and my family said, well, we have both of you here now, so why don't you stay? So I stayed and got my master's degree, and then I worked as a paraprofessional in Hadley for a couple years. Then I went to Smith Vocational for 8 years. Then I went to Hampshire Regional for 10 years, and it was at that point that I was in my 40s or so, and there was a young new teacher that I got in very early to school, and she was always 15 minutes ahead of me, and she was in her room, and she was just like so excited and exuberant. And I thought, wow, like I remember that feeling, but I didn't have it as much as I used to, so I realized that I wanted to do something different. And I felt like I've seen teachers that maybe stay longer than they should, and the kids kind of suffer from burnout or whatever, and I didn't want to be one of those teachers. I needed a new challenge, so I went into administration. I was fortunate to be hired at Gil Montague. I will admit that I think it was a desperation hire because I was completely untested. I had, came from the classroom before Christmas break and was a director after Christmas break. But my superintendent was amazing, and I grew a tremendous amount in that time that I was there. We had a wonderfully tight-knit administrative team, a great community, but then a position opened in Hampshire again, which is close to home, so I applied there, and that's where I've been. So that's a recap of my educational experience. Do you have questions for me?
Well, the first thing I would ask is now you're going to have to drive pretty far.
Yes, but I did it, going to Gil, it's about 5 miles further than Gil Montague, so I did it for a long time, and you get accustomed to it. It is a longer drive, but it'll give me time to process and to listen to podcasts or make phone calls, things like that. So you can do a lot in a car these days.
Melissa?
Was curriculum and personnel able to meet Nancy previous to this?
No, not to me. No.
No other questions? I'm excited. I do know Kate Mesmer, who you've hired, and I'm really excited to continue working with her because she and I have worked at Hampshire. So I'm really excited for this new opportunity.
I guess I would ask just if you would highlight a couple of items that you hope to achieve in your entry plan into this really nice district?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I'm thinking we're going to be meeting to work on those. There's a lot that I don't know, like details on the ground, how things are operating, but I definitely want to spend time in the buildings and try to get to know the kids and the teachers so that I am forging collaborative relationships with folks, get to know the principals. So that's primary. There are other areas that that may need some improvement. I need to identify what those are. My position will span many different areas like ELL and civil rights and special ed, so I'm going to have to take a look at all those things.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, well, I think it will be, just getting to know new people and to see how the programs are running and the special ed services. Yeah, I'm excited about it, for sure.
All 4 of our new administrators are meeting for 3 hours on June 28th to begin the entry planning process.
I have sort of an interviewee question. I'm just curious if you could share what you feel like you're going to add to the administrative team. What do you feel like you can bring to the team?
I have a lot of experience. I'm really, and I've said this so many times, I'm really collaborative. I really appreciate the collective expertise of a group. And so I think I will bring that to the table, that I'm very open, I'm supportive, and I have a lot of experience. Special ed is not black and white. It's very nuanced and very gray. So though I have a lot of experience, I feel like every case is just a little different. And I often like to talk to other people about what I'm thinking and bounce ideas off of others. So I think I'm fun to work with, and I think I'm very hardworking, so people can depend on me. I think that's something that a value that I bring to a team.
Thank you. Alan?
I'm intrigued. I think we're going to be very fortunate to have you. How did you go about engaging the Special Education Advisory Council of Parents?
You had to ask that. So I just never got it off the ground in our district. My first couple years, because again, we had 5 separate districts, so it was a little tricky. The easiest thing for me would have been to have one CPAC for the whole district, but families were really connected to their individual schools. So then I thought, well, I'll go to all the open houses and try to recruit parents and have 5 separate CPACs. But I just found that, one, I think parents felt pretty satisfied with the support and the support through services, but also the support from the staff that they were getting in special ed, so they weren't feeling a need. But there were also so many other things. There's school council and athletics and all these other activities happening. So then I finally had someone volunteer to be the CPAC chair, and one of my ideas was to utilize the expertise that we have in our staff, the school psychologists and the speech language pathologists, to do parent workshops. But the CPAC chair wasn't really keen on that idea and wanted more parent meetings, and he just had a very difficult time. I have kind of a funny story. We set up Zoom meetings for CPAC, and he and I were on the Zoom, and somebody entered the visitors, the waiting room, and we were all excited, and we bring the person in, and it was a reporter. So it turned out really great because the reporter ended up interviewing the CPAC chair, but we didn't get the parents. And even when I've brought in the trainings through the Federation, it's always parents from other districts. We haven't had Hampshire parents. So it's something I'm really interested in, something that I think is really valuable. And I do have, I think, creative, interesting ideas to make it viable, but there has to be some interest
Yeah,
from
I think
parents.
you'll find it much more manageable in a single district like this.
Yeah, and are there parents that, is there an active CPAC at this point?
I don't know. But
Okay, well, I'll try again, you know?
That's great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Should I? Then I would ask if the school committee would consider a motion, and there is suggested language at the bottom of the memo.
Yeah, I would move that we appoint Nancy Polikosh as the Director of Student Services pending successful contract negotiations.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Great. Any further discussion? Melissa, you want to start the voting?
Melissa Gary, abstain.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Geruso, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
All right, Steve?
Stephen Martin, yes.
Okay, and Rena Dastu, yes. That
Great,
passes.
thank you so much. Congratulations, Nancy.
Thank you very, very much. I'm really excited.
Thank
Best
you.
wishes to you.
Congratulations.
Yep.
And Nancy, I know you really want to stay for tonight's meeting, but you should feel free to head home. All right. And before we head off the superintendent's report, I want to let you know that that thump, thump, thump and cheering you might hear is the middle school dance taking place in the cafeteria. So feel free to head by when the meeting is over.
Yeah, they were coming in as I was coming in.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this looks like fun.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be some limbo opportunity for all of us. Never know. Mac's feeling pretty limber, actually.
I appreciate
Better you than me.
I hear a challenge.
Yeah, as long as there's a title belt.
It's called the claw.
Yeah,
I know, that was my first thought. Like, what time's the dance end?
yeah,
9?
that's
Oh,
what
great.
I planned.
Yeah,
So I
motivation.
better move us along, right? That's the point, Jen. Thank you.
All right,
Right, so I think I'm up, right?
you are up.
Good. So are there any questions on the May 2023 financials? No? Good.
I kind of
Of
have
course.
a policy connection question here.
Yep.
In looking through the various line items, I noticed that there's between 40 and 50% of the professional development funds that have not been spent.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if there are professional development opportunities that are going to happen before the end of the fiscal year that will use some of those monies. And if we're not using those monies, maybe we have to nudge some people. I don't know.
Yep, sure. I think that nudging could potentially help. What I can say in terms of professionals applying for professional development, we approve them as we get them. So there are not any that at least that come across my desk that I'm not approving. And I think that with a new director of teaching and learning, there'll be more, some more centralized initiatives as well. I think that'll help move it along, and obviously having permanent principals at all the in all the positions, I'm sure will help create more initiatives that can spend more of that money. But although I don't generally talk this way, I'm very happy for people to spend that money because I think it's great to invest in our staff. It's one of the best ways we can spend money as a district, in my opinion.
Very important. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and just a clarifying question, Karen. So that money is for teachers to take courses and get reimbursed for classes and things like that, or is this for professional development to go to workshops,
elsewhere.
seminars? Okay.
Yeah. Workshops, conferences, etc. Or opportunities that where the district brings someone in and pays for it, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. So I noticed in the memo that our investments are doing, we're earning more in our investments, and I was just curious what kinds of investments those are.
I know that sounds more exotic. It's going to be
Yeah.
disappointing. I'm running a hedge fund, Raina. No. So what's happened is obviously as I think many people know, right, in the marketplace, savings accounts, money markets account, different risk-free investments now pay a good interest rate around between 3.5% and 4%. In a lot of those accounts, and our treasurer, under the guidance of our fiscal overseer, recently reached out to our bank about 2 months ago now, or maybe even more, and spoke with the bank to get us higher rates. So generally, I mean, last year the rate on those money market accounts was a fraction of a percent, and now we're getting 3.75%. So a lot more money. So that's good and risk free. So and that's a very good question, because what if we were engaged in some type of risky investment, but it's all essentially risk free investments.
Great.
So
thank you.
Oh, I did have one other question. I'm sorry. There's a line item for audit. Are we going to have an audit?
Yes. The audit is mostly complete.
Okay.
The end of the year report, the single audit, and the actual audit of the general fund. 2 of those 3 are completed, and there may be a couple documents necessary to complete. But
We haven't gotten the bill yet, in other words.
True. But the audit itself has been completed about 7 months faster than the previous year. So if we can keep shaving 7 months off the time, we'll be back on schedule.
Thank you.
So when they do complete an audit, do they provide that? Generally, the auditors would provide a copy to the town officials and one in the district. That's my familiarity of how that works. How does it work here?
Yeah, I mean, what I anticipate happening is really the auditor should be doing a presentation to the school committee, right? Because it's your auditor.
Absolutely.
They're obviously auditing the district's business office, but it's the school committee's auditor who is providing the service to you all and should be providing you a presentation. So I can reach out to the auditor on your behalf and look at once the audit is completely done. Obviously, there's a management letter, and you'll get summaries of it, but I think in general the process should be that there's also a presentation given to the school committee, so that any of the messages you're getting aren't filtered through administration, right? It should be audited directly to you all.
Yeah, that's the only process that I'm aware of, is that you get the management letter, you get the response from management, but then you get the presentation that the town officials are invited to, but also as part of that RFQ that you put out, that they produce the audit and it's released to the individual towns. So I guess it's food for thought as you put together your next requests or deliverables in your audit.
Yeah. And I'll reach out and try to schedule that presentation. I think with FY22, we were both changing auditors, and the audit was done extremely late.
There's a motion for budget transfers. If we flip our page for the memo.
Next side.
I mean, I can just briefly preface this. So there's, I wrote it more neutrally in the memo, but I made an error in Excel, causing an Excel formula error. So the total amount was off by several $1,000s. So I wanted to request a motion to revote that with the correct amount before we send it to the commissioner.
So I'll move the motion to correct the error. To approve the updated budget transfer total from the May 11th, 2023 school committee meeting in the amount of $358,342.
Second?
Any discussion?
Didn't the commissioner already approve the new budget with that amount adjusted? Is this a formality in terms of we're just getting in line with what he approved?
So this is for the budget transfers.
Oh, for
So,
the transfers.
right, yep. Mhm.
Gotcha. But he has approved the new budget amount.
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
All right. Do you want to start their voting?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes. Sorry.
That's okay. And Raina Dastu, yes. That passes unanimously. All right.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
And I think the only other would be is if anyone had any question about the lunch report. No question. Very exciting. Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to the subcommittee reports. Let's see. Budget subcommittee.
The budget subcommittee just met at 6 p.m. this evening, and we will have some information at our next meeting for everyone. There wasn't a lot that we had to vote on or anything.
Curriculum and personnel.
We met on Tuesday and discussed the position that we talked about today. So we'll be meeting on the 15th before the next meeting, possibly beforehand, but we'll see.
Great. Let's see. Policy. Do we have an update? Nope. Okay. And I think that's it for subcommittees. Under new business, Warwick Kosmeskis contract.
Yeah, I am. Are there any questions regarding what was written in the memo? Okay.
And this is regarding an addendum to the school transportation services contract, allowing Warwick to contract with Kosmeskis for the current rates that were negotiated when Warwick is part of the Pioneer District. So,
You're looking for a motion? So I
Yes.
would move that the committee approve the addendum to the school transportation service contract as presented.
Second.
great. Any discussion? Okay. We'll start the voting.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Steve.
Stephen Martin, yes.
Great. And Raina Dastu, yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you. Oh, so yeah, this was an addendum to the school transportation services contract that allows Warwick to negotiate with, contract with Kosmeskis Bus Company at the same rates that were negotiated at the last negotiations when Warwick was.
Let me explain.
Yes.
Yeah,
please.
so basically there was a contract that Franklin Tech and Pioneer were in along with on all the routes, and Warwick's routes were obviously in that contract. So with Warwick being independent, the amendment is that Warwick picks up all the expenses related to the portion of the contract for transporting Warwick students, so that the district here has no liability, but it's the Warwick chair and the chair of this committee would vote by authority of the school committee to allow that addendum to be attached to the original contract, which is in its third year. So that becomes a new issue next year when it goes out to bid.
And it removes the financial obligation that the Pioneer District has for those routes. So, thank you. All right, so moving on to website contract.
Right, so we have a current agreement with the Collaborative for Educational Services to provide website development. And that project is not moving at the pace we'd like. And so we would requesting that we end that contract, pay the developer half of the fee, and then go out and seek a new developer to hopefully move the process along at a more rapid speed. And that also had a memo.
Any questions? Yes.
Have we began to start looking for a new company?
Already in conversations, have gotten bids from a couple folks, and we have a preliminary conversation with a vendor tomorrow.
Great, awesome, thank you.
Sorry, and to amend, and we were seeking specifically vendors that could commit to doing this in 8 to 9 weeks.
Good, good.
I have a full dance card.
You sure do.
Always.
Yeah, and a little bit more.
Yeah.
I have led the overhaul of websites in 2 different districts. One of the vendors who I believe will bid on this is a vendor I have worked with before, and I have a great deal of confidence in.
Okay, are you looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
I just had one other
Oh,
question. So are you satisfied, Jordan, that they've performed 50% of the expectations or what was needed to be completed? Or is that kind of a negotiated number that seems reasonable?
It does seem reasonable. I'll defer potentially to Patricia because she has intimate knowledge of the process.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We just need a quicker pace. And we, on the record, we appreciate our collaboration with the Collaborative for Educational Services. We enjoy working with them. They provide top-notch services. On this one project, we need a different vendor.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to move that we approve the canceling of the current website development contract with the Collaborative for Educational Services and seek a new contract with a different vendor.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion?
And they're aware of this action.
CES?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. You want to start the voting, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Druso, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Carlton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
Great. And Raina Dasty, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. And commissioner approval letters.
This is informational, our attempt to reassure you that we are sharing information from the commissioner. So the commissioner has approved the gymnasium floor contract that the school committee recently voted. And Alan, to your point earlier, the FY24 budget has been approved by the commissioner. We are grateful for his ongoing support for the work of the district.
Thank you. Rural schools bill. Want to speak to that?
Yeah. I hope you've all read about the rural schools bill that was in your packet. At this time of year, we have to be somewhat political if we want the state legislature to pass bills that will help our district. So I received an email from Jessica Corwin, as you read. I did sign the letter of support for elected officials, and I believe at this time we should pass a resolution so that we can send it to the Joint Committee on Education once we vote on it. Raina, hopefully you can sign for it, for everyone.
Yes.
I also received this email. Did everybody else on the committee? That's what I was assuming. So everybody
Oh,
received
okay.
this email.
Yes.
Okay.
So everybody
I hope
received
so.
this email.
All
So
right.
everybody, if you have so chosen,
All right.
could have signed it.
Signed it.
I would also add to this that there is a section about talking with our select boards, our local town select boards. I would volunteer to speak with the select board in Bernardston to see if they are interested in moving forward the resolution that the town can also. So for those of you that may or may not have spent time reading through all of this email, it's to add pressure for more rural school funding and to really follow through on the promises that the state has made in the past. And so it's been out there for 4.5 years. We haven't received our full funding. And so there's a grassroots group with local school districts in our area that are putting together this group. I emailed Jessica back and said, thank you so much. She replied back with another lengthy email inviting us in January and February. They're going to be doing a rural schools kind of committee and hearing so that people can join that and send more pressure to the State House. So I just encourage everyone. So I don't know if anybody else is interested in working with their select boards or talking and sharing this, but I think the more local input we have and the more resolutions will be helpful.
Brian, did you guys get it too? Like, did the select boards get
No.
solicited by this group? Okay.
No, they didn't. I will obviously take care of Leiden. So I don't think I need to read the whole resolution, do I?
No.
So I will move the resolution as printed, except for where it says Mohawk Trail Regional School District, we'll put in Pioneer Valley Regional School District. And obviously the Pioneer Valley Regional
that's the back
School, Committee.
I would say we need to write our own draft first because they get more specific on the amount of money that Mohawk got. I don't know what we received for funding,
Yeah, well, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
That's what I'm hoping, that, I'm hoping Joanne or someone could, with Jordan's help.
Oh, I
put
don't-
that in.
no,
Or
I
do
think
we
that
have
if this
to-
is a resolution of the school
Okay.
committee, that we need
Right.
to find someone
Right.
that edits and drafts it
Right.
before we move
So
forward.
the way this is set up is
Oh,
that
okay.
we have all the
know
whereases for supporting the rural schools, the Commonwealth, the need for the money. And then Jordan can fill in the particulars about the unique demographics and characteristics related to the town. And you would put in the whereases specific to our district. Is the way that I would see
Right.
that.
I
rather
don't-
than
I
a
would,
blank-
I would
Yeah.
feel more comfortable if this is a school committee resolution, frankly, that school committee draft the language rather than
Yeah.
administration.
We can work with,
We're happy to respond to
to
an
get the
information request.
information. Yeah, we can request the information.
I'm not
but
suggesting that-
one of us needs to,
Yeah, I'm not
make the edits.
suggesting that it come from the district. It needs to come from the school committee. I'm suggesting that the specific benefits of the financial, that information is gleaned so that it can be, it has more power because it relates specifically to this district. And the school committee needs to be, make sure that it's accurate information.
If the school committee presents a request for information for specifics, we'd be happy to respond.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we're on the same page.
we can do that, yep.
Okay.
And then we can
When are
maybe
they looking-
So-
when are they
provide the
looking to
draft at the
decide?
next school committee meeting.
So we would need someone who's interested in going through and editing this.
Isn't this the budget subcommittee would take this up with the for this
Oh, we didn't
resolution?
talk about it, budget subcommittee. I don't know, I've never done a resolution here before
Yeah,
with
a
the school
resolution-
committee, so this is new to me.
It's just a statement. It's not binding. It doesn't,
Right.
it's a letter that goes off to the state. I don't have a problem if, I will not get this to you by next week. But if you would like someone to be the chair or the head person to find this data, I have no problem putting in a request to get some of the information.
Well, thank you. This is a very bad time of year for me. Getting ready for our annual town meeting and budget, so.
So was this time specific? We have a meeting on the 15th. This could be done 3 weeks from now, right?
Mhm.
Because there's plenty of time for this to percolate. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
Let's-
it's good to put it on our radar and to start setting into motion. And when the resolution is ready, then we
Yeah.
can bring the draft to the school committee and
Thank you.
we can give our endorsement to that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Great.
Yeah, and if I could just say that this is a great first step.
Oops.
This is a great first step. The complete reimbursement for transportation that the state promised us when the regionalization happened is what we need. Right, so this is, I saw this, was like, oh, it's just a bit, right? So it's a good start, but really, we need to continue to push that, part of regionalization is that the state funds the transportation. That's how it works.
and I didn't know, Patricia, if you wanted to comment on, I thought it was terrific news that we have an appointment for what's the title? The Director of Rural.
Oh, the new.
So you might want to talk about that, because that's pretty exciting, the
The
governor.
Maura Healy's. What is, do you remember the name of that position?
Which one? No, not Ann Goby.
No.
You mean, the person that came?
She was the Western Mass person.
First.
Right,
It's
no,
the
this is
rural-
a new appointment, first ever, as
Yeah.
the Director of,
Yeah.
I want to say rural something
Like a
education.
rural liaison to.
Oh,
It's more than
education?
education.
No.
It's
No.
more
No,
than-
not
It's a
education.
person in, yeah, who's,
So to have somebody
Here.
that
Yeah.
has, a
can't
high-level
remember.
position in the governor's office advocating for rural schools is going to be a big plus.
Great. All right, so on to policy review.
Thank you. In your packets, you have a proposed updated policy. You previously reviewed this policy on May 18th, and as is laid out in this week's memo, the two changes that I've made based on your feedback were to add the date that the policy would become effective, and that is June 15th, and I corrected a typo. Otherwise, the drafts are proposed as presented.
Are there any questions?
Just have a quick question. I'm looking at this today for the first time. So on the second page, it says the parent or guardian must notify the district in writing of their intent to homeschool at least 14 calendar days before the homeschool program is to begin. Does that imply that mid-year I can pull my child to homeschool with 14 days notice, or is that in the beginning of the school calendar year?
That's at any point in the year.
point.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve the revised policy IHVG, homeschooling, as presented to us in a slightly revised form since our first reading.
Second.
Would you also add to your motion, there's the second IHGBR, there's two
Oh,
policies.
All right. And its companion policy, policy IHGB-R, homeschooling.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Carlton, yes.
Stephen
Paul
Martin,
Genovese is abstain.
Okay. And Rita Jastu, yes. So that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the policy subcommittee for bringing these drafts.
Yeah, careful,
to
such
us.
careful review. Thank
Great
you.
Review. All right. Alan, Six-Town Regional Planning Board update?
Oh, just a couple of things. Yes, thank you. So we're starting to wind up or wind down the many activities we've been involved in. We finished, almost finished all of the presentations to staff and parents. We have a presentation for the Irving School Committee parents and staff, and we'll have another one for the Warwick School Committee parents and staff. And we have awarded a contract to the Abrahams Group to run the assessments one last time in multiple methods to see how that would impact the towns. And we hope to have that information by the end of the summer, and then we can start sharing that with everyone as we culminate the research.
How did the presentation go that was here? How many families showed up? How did the presentation go?
Yeah, there were a couple of, the number 2, 3, 4. There
I
were
don't think I didn't participate. I wasn't there.
couple of families. It wasn't well attended, but the information that they provided, to me, it was obvious they talked to other people and were asking questions maybe on their behalf or raising concerns. So I thought that went pretty well in terms of gathering information. There were a number of staff that were there. Again, I don't remember the number, maybe 6, 7, and they had good comments and questions. So, and we found the same in Gill, and we went to Sheffield, and Hillcrest had a combined one, and we did the high school, middle school as a combined. So the information was very good, and the consultant captured it, and we'll put together a report. And we'll share. We're just getting the information. One of the things that's interesting going into this is that as we gleaned information from students and parents and staff, there's a lot of evidence that shows that it would have significant benefits for student opportunities and for staff. And so we just capture that and we put it down, as well as the challenges that they raise. Because it looks like there's a number of additional opportunities that kids would have in a variety of areas, and we're putting that up. I feel that it could be perceived that we have a bias, that we're trying to promote this. And I try to make a conscious effort to say, this is the information we've heard, and we're just sharing that with you. And I try to put it in the good, the bad, the ugly, so that the concerns and so forth that people have, the challenges that they see. And the students were really great in identifying things that, challenges and areas that they feel that we should be paying attention to.
No, I was just curious about the turnout, how that went, because I was just hearing from other families that had been asking me questions about it, that I would refer, that they're still unaware that the process is happening, or that they had heard, or so I was just curious.
Yeah, and
there's just a lot. There's, just people who don't even know things are happening, and so I was just curious of the turnout.
And that's I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things that in talking to some parents that didn't attend, when after the fact, you can make all the efforts you want. The superintendent here and the other districts put out the parent letter, put out the staff letter. It's obviously all on a volunteer basis. But what I had heard was there's so much information that they're inundated with from the superintendent or from the district that they just didn't open it.
Very much.
And
yes.
So, I can't fault anything happening at the administrative level. I think they put in the best effort, but you can't force someone to click on something. And so, so that's the state of that.
Okay, great. Moving on to our student enrollment update.
You have the June 1 student enrollment in your packet. You can see that enrollment numbers have continued to remain quite stable. We are down just one student district-wide from the month prior. I would take this opportunity to remind the committee and our public that this is the last enrollment report for the 2022-23 calendar school year. The numbers will be different in September. There is the departure of the Warwick resident students in grades K through 6. That will be a loss of some 30 or so students. And we have a sizable contingent of current 8th graders who will be heading off to Franklin County Tech. That is by far the largest cohort. We have a few students going to NMH and one or two other schools. So the numbers will look different. Let's all be prepared for that. The numbers will improve in terms of Vernon enrollment. It is possible that the Vernon enrollment will be similar to the Warwick enrollment at PVRS, with about 17 students from each community.
I will say, and please, anyone correct me if I was wrong. My father he often reads the recorder to me, highlights every morning. We share an office and he shouts down the hall to me. And he was going over the number of students per graduating classes. And Pioneer, again, had the highest number of graduating students within Franklin County, or we were number 2 to Greenfield. And I want to say that we might have even beat Greenfield. I could have been wrong, but we... 72. Okay, so they might have been, but I think we were second when it came to regional. I think the other schools had less than Pioneer. And again, please, this, when he said 48, and then he had mentioned there was a 37, and then there was that we were up there. So we may be losing students, but I think it's also nice to note that the graduation was lovely. And we had a nice sized graduating class in comparison to some other local districts who are also in the same student population boat.
That article talked about Gil Montague, because last year I think they had almost 90. 80.
No, they were quite
low.
This year.
They were quite low. They were the 30 something, I believe. 20 something. Yeah.
So we had found, I'm curious, that there was this understanding, I think, or from the public, that Gil Montague was losing, a lot of kids to Franklin Tech. And so when we looked at that, that wasn't really the case. They were losing about the same number. So it wasn't really having a significant impact on their enrollment. Are you saying that more kids than usually are going to Franklin Tech as 8th graders?
That's so interesting, because that's not what I had heard from Gil Montague, but I will go back and check the numbers.
Yeah.
No, we have a sizable contingent leaving for Franklin Tech.
Than previous years.
It's not as big as last year's.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've got programs and things that are in the works.
Yeah, and really the way to engage kids and keep them in the high school is in the middle school. And it's
terrific. We have a new principal coming in who is a middle school ace.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So moving on, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Is there? I don't know that there's any business afterwards.
Do we need to vote?
Anticipated?
That was my question. Do we need to vote publicly?
There is a vote. Yes. Thank you for this opportunity. I would request a vote in executive session, and you will get a memo when you walk into that room. That vote is allowed for under open meeting law. The vote would be, I would request a vote to set contract terms You do not need to come out and disclose those contract terms.
Right.
You would vote to disclose those terms when you execute the contract in public session, but that would not happen tonight.
Right.
So then I would ask if we could alter the agenda so that we can move anything, other business. I have a question about personnel before we go into executive session, and then adjourn at executive session.
I second. Are we seconding that?
Yep, we second that. All right, let's
We
start
can
the
do it by
voting.
Melissa
consensus.
Gary, yes.
We can just do it by consensus,
consensus,
because
yeah.
this isn't to go into executive session. This is to move on the agenda.
Yeah,
There's someone
Yeah.
on the.
there's someone remote. Do we need
We
to?
have to.
Well, okay, you don't want a consensus?
They,
We don't? Let's
the
vote.
committee does need to vote by roll call when it's a split
Meeting, yeah.
attendance
Right,
at the
yeah.
meeting.
Okay. Yes.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes.
And Rita Dasty, yes. All right. So is there any other business to discuss? All right. Personnel question? Personnel?
I do.
Yep.
So I see that there's no personnel updates, but it's the time of year when teachers look for other opportunities.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious if at the next meeting, if we could also have an idea of who we are hiring for, maybe different positions, so like posted positions. Because as we've gone over the personnel, and we've all commented at different times that we see, why is this one still posted? Is this not filled? What is happening? I'm curious if there, not that I need to know whether there's non-renewals, but are there positions that are posted? What are we looking for to fully staff our
Happy to
school?
do that. We have a couple
And
of
the
spreadsheets
postings.
going
Yeah.
with vacancies, we
Yeah.
can bring that.
I'd like to know that. Thank you.
All right. And any other updates? Our next meeting is Thursday, June 15th, here at 7 p.m. All right, and now I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session
Not to return to open.
and not to return to open session. We will adjourn from executive session.
I'll make a motion. Okay, so I make a motion to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, the Director of Student Services, and not to return to open session.
Second.
And are you going to say who you're inviting into that?
So it would be Anne, and I believe Jordan and the superintendent.
Thank you.
All right.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jennifer Coffin, yes.
Michelle Drew, so yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Gretchen Kelton, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Stephen Martin, yes. Sorry, Alan.
That's okay. And Raina Dastu, yes. All right.